Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power, ladies and gentlemen. Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power. Where do I even begin with this TV show? We have a long history with Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power. This show was the first show to blow up this channel. I'm just being real with you, okay? It was the first TV show to blow up this channel, and Velma was the next one afterwards to take us really far after. And then Bud Light carried us home, right? But Rings of Power is a TV show that was a disgrace, okay? It was a disgrace to anything and everything that Tolkien ever stood for. It was a disgrace to his work. Everybody who's a Tolkien head knows that Rings of Power is an absolute trash show. Now, you have some Tolkien heads that were defending the show. Why? Because they got flown out by Amazon. They got wined and dined. They got free screenings. They got access, right? They got access, and that's what essentially made them decide that access was more important than being honest about the TV show. We saw a bunch of fake superfans come out. Superfans that never even watched the show. Superfans that never even made videos about the show till this day. And yet, we still see them trying to say, oh, I'm big Tolkien fans. We're big Rings of Power fans. Absolutely. And they're starting to train again. Now, what am I talking about? We're a minute in. What am I talking about? Well, now, apparently, they've come out and admitted the truth that we've known since the beginning of time, since this particular TV show was a thing. So apparently, we have an article from Bounding Into Comics, and it says, The Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power actress admits that the goal of series was to warp people's visions of J.R.R. Tolkien's The Lord of the Rings. And we knew that they were going to do this. Why? Because they don't like what the original Lord of the Rings stands for. They don't like it. It stands for real, true, actual mythology, right? Like Coach says. It stands for real, true, actual storytelling. Building a mythos, building an actual world that people over the past few decades have absolutely fallen in love with and have become one with because they're such huge fans of it, right? They're huge fans of the work, the world, how everything works. It inspired God knows how many fantasy stories, fantasy games, everything and the like. It's inspired so many people. It's that good, right? Now, they don't like this because they want to create something everlasting and they just have the incapability of doing so. They can only corrupt what they put their hands on. They can't actually create anything worthwhile themselves. So we're going to get into this article, guys. But of course, before we do, just consider giving this video a like to push us out into the YouTube algorithm, and consider subscribing because we're on our way to 25,000 subscribers. So it says, The Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power actress Cynthia Adai Robinson, who plays Muriel in the show, recently revealed the first season of the show was created to warp the story for newcomers to Tolkien's story. During an appearance at the Monte Carlo Television Festival in June, Variety reports Adai Robinson stated season 1 is really about an introduction. You're setting the stage for aspects of the story that are maybe a little bit more familiar to audiences because we do know a little bit more of these next few things that happen that will be part of season 2. She continue, but there are a lot of people who have never read the books. They've never seen the movies. So that season 1 setup really is, in my mind, it really is for people who are very new to Tolkien. So season 2, you're going to see a lot of storylines start to come through, she concluded. Adai Robinson's comments are quite common among cast members for the Prime Video series. Sophia Nomvet, who plays Princess Disa, told PA Media last July, "We are redressing the balance within the film and television industry, and of course the franchise, and I hope lots of franchises moving forward." Now, what are they talking about? Well, Sophia Nomvet was infamous for talking about redressing the balance. She said this in multiple interviews, talking about the fact that black people couldn't see themselves in Lord of the Rings. It was one of the most insane statements, and honestly, to this day, one of the most insulting ones, considering that Lord of the Rings, right? Middle Earth is one of the top stories of all time in the world. It is literally one of the top-selling books, if not the top-selling book in the entire world, aside from the Bible. Like, it is that good. It is that high level of quality that they are trying to say, oh, black people could never see themselves, and now they're redressing the balance. They're writing the book that Tolkien never wrote. I mean, they were saying some absolutely insane shit, the likes of which is extremely insulting to a man that's dead and can't even defend himself. That's the most hilarious thing about this all, that they can have the audacity to say they're redressing the balance of work from a man who can't even speak for himself and say, no, my work is perfectly fine the way it is. You're not redressing anything. But of course, since Tolkien is gone, he's not able to say anything, defend himself, and the Tolkien estate has basically sold themselves for money, so they don't really care what happens to J.R.R. Tolkien's work. They got their money, and that's all that matters to them. So it says these are the best people for the roles, but what they've done is open the doors for people of all backgrounds to come forward and have the opportunity to rise, she posited. And that's another stupid thing they always like to say. This person is the best for the role, but it just so happens that the person who's best for the role 95% of the time is black. It's a weird thing, right? Like, I guess black people are just amazing actors now all of a sudden. They just constantly are being hired for everything. It's totally not on purpose, not at all. It's just so stupid. Like, they really think that people can't see past this nonsense, that we can't see the truth for what it is, and that's the hilarious thing about it. And then she then boldly asserted, to be part of creating accessibility for generations to come, for new generations, this is their version of Tolkien. This is what my daughter will see of Tolkien's work. Well, I feel sad for your daughter. I really do. I feel bad for your daughter that this is going to be the version of Tolkien that she's going to be forced to watch. Chances are, Rings of Power won't even be a talking point. By 15, 20 years from now, when your daughter's old enough, it won't even be a talking point. The Rings of Power is going to come and go like the wind, and it's not going to be an everlasting show like the movies were. It's not going to be an everlasting piece of work like the books were. It's just not. It's a come and go, content-filling, hating thing that nobody likes and everybody loves to hate on. It says it's their time, and it's so important. I hope many people will see this fantasy and be able to relate to it. She continued, this is a reflection of the world we live in. There are many and we are different, and we will embrace and discover and peel back and learn and educate and be educated. And we can only do that when we embrace love and our differences, she added. It's so pathetic, ladies and gentlemen. It really is. It really is to look at the world from the tone of skin. Like, imagine having such a simplistic mindset that you can only see skin color before you can relate to something, right? So if you see a work of fiction, you absolutely cannot relate to it unless the person in that fiction has the same skin color as you, because you live in this crazy simplistic world where skin color is the only thing of importance. And if you don't see it, suddenly you can't relate, suddenly you don't exist, suddenly you are not able to see yourself. There's so many of these excuses that you come up with for quite simply just being able to call yourself racist will be a lot simpler and easier. You are the most racist people out there if you really think that anybody gives a shit about the skin color of the character when they're on screen in order to be able to relate to it. People care about the source material and how it's written. We've said this so many times. This goes for many different IPs, and all of the IPs that get adapted, that the source material is respected, guess what? They are mostly successful. All the other IPs where the source material is thrown out the window in the favor of identity politics in modern day, guess what happens to those TV shows? They bomb. Nobody watches them. They give out false analytics because they never want to release the actual real viewership. With the Nielsen IQ data, we can see that these TV shows are garbage. Nobody watches them. Nobody cares about them, especially in the long term. Only 25 or 30% of people who watched Rings of Power actually finished it. I believe that statistic came out a few weeks ago. That is amazingly bad. Do you realize, like, it's such an insult to say that people cared about this show and will actually care about this being their version of Tolkien? I guarantee you, a lot of the people who maybe never have seen Tolkien's work before, they probably picked up the book after watching Rings of Power because they wanted to see what everybody was talking about. They wanted to see what everybody was saying when regarding trashing the show and just how much better the books actually were. So at the very least, you definitely made people into more readers, but you didn't make them into watchers. And that is going to continue into season 2 as we get ready for the release, and we will absolutely be going through this show with a fine-tooth comb and trashing it every single week on Saturday Night Hypnosis. So anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you did enjoy it, and if you did, consider leaving me a subscribe. I would greatly appreciate it. Don't forget to like the video, comment, let me know what you thought, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Hypnotic out.